guys, Caleb here, back again with more Red Knot. This time we have Goosebumps by R.L. Stine, The Night of the Living Dummy 2. Now, I don't have one, so I can't read that one first. But I do have 3, so we'll need to at least read that before we read any more. Read this before we read any more. Yeah, I know word's good. So the cover of this is a girl's bed, I guess, with really shitty looking wallpaper in the background. And there's like this weird looking bear that's looking at the dummy going, "Oh my god!" And then there's a bunny is looking at the dummy is like, do not want. And the dummy's just kind of sitting there with its mouth open. Yeah, it doesn't look like a friendly dummy at all. And the little subtitle on here says, "He's still walking, he's still stalking." Ooh, scary. What is that he's got? I can't... Oh no, that's just his shadow. I thought he had like a... For some reason I thought he had a knife or something, and then I'm like, wow, that's really kind of dark for a little kid's book. To the back, which for some reason this book's theme color is pink, white, green, and blue. You can't teach an old dummy new tricks. Amy's ventriloquist dummy, Dennis, keeps losing its head. For real. So Amy begs her family for a new dummy. That's where her dad finds Slappy, in a local pawn shop. Slappy's kind of ugly, but Amy's having fun practicing her new routine. Because that's what you do as a kid, I guess. If anybody is like the age of these, like, people be reading these books, is somebody out there a ventriloquist? Like, is that a thing you guys do? I don't know. Like, I never knew anybody who was interested in ventriloquism. Not to say there probably aren't people, but I've never known a single person. Then horrible things start happening. Horrible, nasty things. Just like what happened the first time. Because there's something odd about Slappy. Something not quite right. Something evil. Reader beware, you're in for a scare. Goosebumps. Also available from R.L. Stine, The Barking Ghost. Alright, let's start reading. Chapter 1. My name is Amy Kramer, and every Thursday night I feel a little dumb. That's because Thursday is family sharing night at my house. Sarah and Jed think it's dumb too, but Mom and Dad won't listen to our complaints. It's the most important night of the week, Dad says. It's a family tradition, Mom adds. It's something you kids will always remember. Right, Mom. It's something I'll always remember as really painful and embarrassing. Well, that too, but I'm sure there'll be something interesting that comes out of it as well. You've probably guessed that on family sharing night, every member of the Kramer family, except for George or Cat, has to share something with the rest of the family. It isn't so bad for my sister, Sarah. Sarah is 14, 2 years older than me, and she's a genius painter. Okay. Really, one of her paintings was chosen for a show at the art museum downtown. That doesn't mean she's a genius. It would depend on what museum decided to pick it, to showcase it. Also, was this just a school thing to, like, give students a treat or something? Because that doesn't necessarily mean you're a genius. That just means they picked somebody that they, in theory, liked best, but probably just picked a student. Sarah may go to a special arts high school next year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there are high schools that specialize in art. There are colleges that specialize in art, but not high schools. There could be a high school with a really great art program. Like, some schools have good music programs, some schools have good football programs. That's more like club activities kinds of things that you do outside of school. You don't really get a special focus until you go to college, where you start developing your special focus. So Sarah always shares some sketches she's working on, or a new painting. And family sharing night isn't so bad for Jed either. My 10-year-old brother is such a total goof. He doesn't care what he shares. One Thursday night, he burped really loud and explained that he was sharing his dinner. Yeah. Jed was laughing like a lunatic. Yeah. There's always got to be somebody in the family that's kind of special. But Mom and Dad didn't think it was funny. They gave Jed a stern lecture about taking family sharing night more seriously. The next Thursday night, my obnoxious brother shared a note that David Miller, a kid at my school, had written to me. A very personal note. Jed found the note in my room and decided to share it with everyone. Nice. I wanted to die. I really did. Well, yeah, you're at the age where you're embarrassed by liking boys, so big whoop-de-doo. I mean, once you're an adult, you'll be like, well, that was really stupid and embarrassing. I could have killed you for that. Well, I thought it was funny at the time, sis. I was a bratty brother, and you know how that shit is when you're kids. Yeah, I do. I still hate you for that. Oh, I know, sis. Jed just thinks he's so cute and adorable, he probably doesn't give two shits. Let's face it, as a younger brother, he probably doesn't give two shits. He can get away with anything. Well, it sure feels like it. He thinks he's really special. Yeah, and then he looks at his older sisters and like, damn, they get to do a lot more shit than I get to. I'm always told no, or I have to stay at home, or I can't go out and play in the snow because I'm too little or some shit. And it's only a fucking blizzard. It's not like something bad could happen to me if I go out in the snow. I'm not bitter. I think it's because he's the only redhead in the family. Sarah and I both have straight black hair, dark green eyes, and very tan skin. With his pale skin, freckled face, and curly red hair, Jed looks like he comes from another family. I have this feeling that this is a theme with Mr. Stein. And sometimes Sarah and I both wish he did. Anyway, I'm the one with the most problems on family sharing night, because I'm not really talented the way Sarah is, and my page is fucked up. Hold on. There we go. I don't know why, but it's dog-eared. Talented the way Sarah is, and I'm not a total goof like Jed, so I never really know what to share. I don't know. Talk about your day. I went to school. Dr. Cox is a dick. I got picked on. And then I came home and got yelled at by my brother, who's an asshole. And then I hid in my room all day, drawing and writing stupid shit. And not doing my homework, which I'll do on the school bus on the way to school tomorrow, which will suck. Just like today sucked. Just like yesterday sucked. And all the days before sucked. There you go. that you share that. I mean, I have a seashell collection, which I keep in a jar on my dresser, but it's really kind of boring to hold up shells and talk about them. How do you know this? I don't know, maybe you like, oceanography or something. I mean, that would be interesting. Like, hey, maybe I've been considering since I like shells in the sea and all this shit so much, maybe I should, study to become some kind of, veterinarian or person who studies the sea or whatever. You can think of something. And if you don't like this, just look something up. Just study something specifically to share on family night. If your parents are going to make you do this. I mean, again, why not talk about how your week's been? Why not be like, well, I bumped into Bobby and I haven't seen him in a week, and found out his sister's been sick and she missed 5 days of school, and apparently they're being assholes to her because they're not going to give her full credit for the missed homework even though she was legitimately sick. I mean, you can think of something, or you can just make shit up. Your parents aren't going to know. And we haven't been to the ocean for nearly 2 years, so my shells are kind of old, and everyone has already seen them. Well, okay. Well, you could still talk about them and be like, man, we haven't been to the ocean in 2 years, and I really miss it, and I'd like to get more shells, and which I think is actually illegal for you to take shells off the beach. So this child has committed a crime. I also have a really good collection of CDs, but no one else in my family is into Bob Marley and reggae music. Okay, that's unique. Even if they're not, you could still talk about it. If I start to share some music with them, they all hold their ears and complain until I shut it off. Well, that's why you play one song and be like, okay, shared it, bye. If you guys don't like it, then stop this stupid sharing thing. Okay, see ya. So I usually make up some kind of a story, an adventure story about a girl who survives danger after danger, or a wild fairy tale about princesses who turn into tigers. That's awesome! I want to hear about these. In fact, write stories specifically for family night. Or maybe read an excerpt from a book you've been reading, or you really liked, or you read in class, or something. I mean, you're making this more difficult than it really should be. After my last story, Dad had a big smile on his face. Amy is going to be a famous writer, he announced. She's so good at making up stories. Dad gazed around the room, still smiling. We have such a talented family, he exclaimed. I knew he was just saying that to be a good parent, to encourage me. Sarah's the real talent in our family, everyone knows that. You have issues. It's okay. I have issues too. But hey, that's your dad. And maybe you don't believe this at the age of 12, but your dad is going to say stuff to you because he loves you. And he's going to be proud of you because you're doing something you like to do and have a talent in, whether you think it's a noteworthy talent or not. So shut the fuck up and accept the damn praise. Tonight, Jed was the first to share. Mom and Dad sat on the living room couch. Dad had taken out a tissue and was squinting as he cleaned his glasses. Dad can't stand to have the tiniest speck of dust on his glasses. He cleans them about 20 times a day. I settled in the big brown armchair against the wall. Also, about the glasses. If you have glasses, guess you're going to be cleaning them a lot throughout the day. Because it's annoying. Once you get like a little smear or a speck, and you're like, no, I can deal with this. It's not that bad. And then you put your glasses on. And all you can see is that speck that's really blurry and in the way of you reading whatever it is you're doing. Whatever it is you're reading. So this lady is wrong about it. I settled in the big brown armchair against the wall. Sarah sat cross-legged on the carpet beside my chair. What are you going to share tonight? Mom asked Jed. And I hope it isn't another horrible burp. That was so gross, Sarah moaned. Your face is gross, Jed shot back. He stuck out his tongue at Sarah. Jed, please, give us a break tonight. This is when you take your son, you throw him over your knee, and you start spanking him. A lot. Until he minds you. Dad muttered, slipping his glasses back on, adjusting them on his nose. Don't cause trouble. She started it. No, she didn't. She just said what you did was gross. And then you said she was gross, so actually you're the asshole. Jed insisted, pointing at Sarah. Just share something, I told Jed, sighing. I'm going to share your freckles, Sarah told him. I'm going to pull them off one by one and feed them to George. Sarah and I laughed. George didn't glance up. He was curled up, napping, on the carpet beside the couch. That's not funny, girls, Mom snapped. Yeah, it is. Because they can't actually do that, and he's being an asshole. Stop being mean to your brother, because him being mean to the older sister is somehow less of a thing. This is supposed to be a family night, Dad wailed. Why can't we be a family? We are. Well, I was about to say this. You already are a family. You don't need a special family night to be a family. It helps grow bonds, I'm sure, but that you don't need a special night to be a family. You just need to be a family. A family is not about a special night. We are, Jed insisted. Dad frowned and shook his head. He looks like an owl when he does that. Okay, so we have a fixation on owls as well. Jed, are you going to share something? He demanded weakly. Because Dad doesn't have a backbone. Jed nodded. Yeah, he stood in the center of the room and shoved his hands into his jean pockets. He wears loose, baggy jeans about 10 sizes too big. They always look as if they're about to fall down. Jed thinks that's cool. Yeah, because I get to accidentally flash my underwear and all the girls scream and then the teacher gets mad at me and sends me to time out, which, now that I think about it, that's not awesome, but, the girls screamed, so that was pretty cool. I, learned to whistle through my fingers, he announced. Wow, Sarah muttered sarcastically. Jed ignored her. He pulled his hands from his pocket, then stuck his 2 little fingers into the sides of his mouth, and let out a long, shrill whistle. He whistled through his fingers 2 more times, then he took a deep bow. The whole family burst into loud applause. Jed, grinning, took another low bow. Such a talented family, Dad declared. This time he meant it as a joke. Jed dropped down on the floor beside George, startling the poor cat awake. Your turn next, Amy, Mom said, turning to me. Are you going to tell us another story? Her stories are too long, Jed complained. Because he's a dick, as little brothers are. George climbed unsteadily to his feet and moved a few feet away from Jed. Yawning, the cat dropped onto its stomach beside Mom's feet. I'm not going to tell a story tonight, I announced. I picked up Dennis from behind my armchair. Sarah and Jed both groaned. Hey, give me a break, I shouted. I settled back on the edge of the chair, fixing my dummy on my lap. I thought I'd talk to Dennis tonight, I told Mom and Dad. They had half smiles on their faces. I didn't care. I'd been practicing with Dennis all week, and I wanted to try out my new comedy routine with him. Amy is a lousy ventriloquist. Jed chimed in. You could see her lips move. Be quiet, Jed. I think Dennis is funny, Sarah said. She scooted towards the couch so she could see better. I balanced Dennis on my left knee and wrapped my fingers around the string in the back that worked his mouth. Dennis is a very old ventriloquist dummy. The paint on his face is faded. One eye is almost completely white. His turtleneck sweater is torn and tattered. So, you could learn how to fix him, like repaint him and get him a new sweater or something? I mean, you could fix it up, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know anything about ventriloquist dummies, but in theory, you could fix it. But I have a lot of fun with him. When my 5-year-old cousins come to visit, I like to entertain them with Dennis. They squeal and laugh. They think I'm a riot. I think I'm getting much better with Dennis, despite Jed's complaints. Which should be a comma, but I guess I could work as 2 sentences. Yes, 2 periods. I took a deep breath, glanced at Mom and Dad, and began my act. How are you tonight, Dennis? I asked. Not too well, I made the dummy reply in a high, shrill voice. I like my voice better. Dennis's voice. Really, Dennis? What's wrong? I think I've caught a bug. You mean you had the flu? I asked him. No, termites. Mom and Dad laughed. Sarah smiled. Jed groaned loudly. Yeah, that's pretty... But hey, what can you do? She's a child. I turned back to Dennis. Well, have you been to the doctor? I asked him. No, a carpenter. Mom and Dad smiled at that one, but didn't laugh. Jed groaned again. Sarah stuck her fingers down her throat, pretending to puke. No one liked that joke, Dennis, I told him. Who's joking? I made Dennis reply. This is lame, I heard Jed mutter to Sarah. She nodded her head in agreement. After she said she liked Dennis and thought he was funny, then she's like, nope, this is stupid. Great older sister there. I don't understand that about, I guess, kids' books, or at least with these particular books. Like, characters tend to just switch, like a light switch, their emotions. It's weird. Let's change the subject, Dennis, I said, shifting the dummy to my other knee. Do you have a girlfriend? I leaned Dennis forward, trying to make him nod his head yes, but his head rolled right off his shoulders. The wooden head hit the floor with a thud and bounced over to George. The cat leapt up and scampered away. Sarah and Jed collapsed in laughter, slapping each other high fives. And if you were good at this, you'd be like, oh no, I lost my head. I kind of sound like Obscurus Lupa's imitation of her own cat. I jumped angrily to my feet. "Dad!" I screamed. "You promised you'd buy me a new dummy." Jed scurried over to the rug and picked up Dennis's head. He pulled the string, making my dummy's mouth move. "Amy Reeks! Amy Reeks!" Jed made the dummy repeat over and over. "Give me that!" I grabbed the head angrily from Jed's hand. "Amy Reeks! Amy Reeks!" Jed continued chanting. "That's enough!" Mom shouted, jumping off the couch. Jed retreated back to the wall. "Yep, and that's when you grab your son, and you flip him over your knee, and you spank him some more." "I've been checking the stores for a new dummy," Dad told me, pulling off his glasses again and examining them closely. "But they're all so expensive." "Well, how am I ever going to get better at this?" I demanded. "Dennis's head falls off every time I use him." "Do your best," Mom said. What did that mean? I always hated it when she said that. Superglue it? I don't know. Again, if you care that much about it, I think you would try to repair it yourself. Instead of family sharing night, we should call this the Thursday night fight, Sarah declared. Well, if every time it turns into a fight, then yeah. Jed raised his fist. "Want to fight?" he asked Sarah. "It's your turn, Sarah," Mom replied, narrowing her eyes at Jed. "And then you grab him again, and you're like, 'Look, if you keep fucking up, I'm going to spank you. Again. And then you're going to start losing privileges starting now.' What are you sharing tonight?" "I have a new painting," Sarah announced. "It's a watercolor." "Of what?" Dad asked, settling his glasses back on his face. "Remember that cabin we had in Maine a few summers ago? So wait, you're not just going to put the dummy's head back on its body and finish your jokes? They're just going to skip your turn now because you got upset after your dummy lost its head?" "Remember that cabin we had in Maine a few summers ago?" Sarah replied, tossing back her straight black hair. "The one overlooking the dark rock cliff. I found a snapshot of it, and I tried to paint it. I suddenly felt really angry and upset. I admit it, I was jealous of Sarah. Here she was, about to share another beautiful watercolor, and here I was, rolling a stupid wooden dummy head in my lap. Which again, why aren't they letting you finish it? And again, if that had happened, you should roll with it, and be like, I don't know, make something up on the spot about how every time you talk about girls, the dummy literally loses his head. There, I made something up to go along with the fact that your dummy is shit and his head just falls off. It just wasn't fair. You'll have to come to my room to see it," Sarah was saying. "It's so wet." "So you don't have a hairdryer to dry it with?" We all stood up and trooped to Sarah's room. Yes, trooped. My family lives in a long, one-story ranch-style house. My room and Jed's room are at the end of one hallway. The living room, dining room, and kitchen are in the middle. Sarah's room and my parents' room are down the other hall, way at the other end of the house. I led the way down the hall. Behind me, Sarah was going on and on about the trouble she'd had with the painting and how she'd solved the problems. "I remember that cabin so well," Dad said. "I can't wait to see the painting," Mom added. I stepped into Sarah's room and clicked on the light. Then I turned to the easel by the window that held the painting and let out a scream of horror. My mouth dropped open in shock. I stared at the painting, unable to speak. When Sarah saw it, she let out a shriek. I don't believe it!" she screamed. "Who did that?" Someone had painted a yellow and black smiley face in the corner of her painting, right in the middle of the Black Rock Cliff. "Well, considering your little brother's an asshole." Mom and Dad stepped up to the easel, fretful expressions on their faces. They studied the smile face, then turned to Jed. Jed burst out laughing. "Do you like it?" he asked innocently. "Jed, how could you?" Sarah exploded. "I'll kill you. I really will." "The painting was too dark," Jed explained with a shrug. "I wanted to brighten it up, but, my sister spurted." She balled her hands into fists, shook them at Jed, and uttered a loud cry of rage. So, being a younger sibling, you do things to things, and while I'm not sure how old this Jed kid is, I do know that you think you're doing something fun or helpful, and you're not. My brother had to grow, like, some kind of plants or something. And I don't remember why, but I took them and, like, out of their cups or something. And I did something with them. And you have to remember, I'm 10 years younger than my brother, so I might have been 4 or 5, maybe even 6 doing this. And my brother is 16 or something, and he's growing these plants for some reason, I guess for science class. Yeah, he was upset. I don't really remember his reaction, but I remember, Mom telling me the story about it, and she's like, she had to grow that for school and you ruined it. And I'm like, well, I didn't know. And she's like, well, I knew that, and I told Kelvin that, but it doesn't do any good. It still messes with his grade. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know. Of course, as a child, you don't know. Jed, what were you doing in Sarah's room? Mom demanded. Sarah doesn't like for anyone to go into her precious room without a written invitation. Well, of course not. She's, 14 you said? She's getting to the age where she wants her own space. Her room is hers. It's like, I don't really know how to describe it, but think if somebody went into your bedroom, and even if it is like your little brother, even if he's innocently going in there because maybe he thinks Mom missorted the laundry and you might have a shirt or something, or even a little sister who's, going in there, you don't like it. You just don't, because that's your room, that's your space, that is your living area. That is where you go to be you and to be left alone and keep your things. And it feels highly intrusive for other people to go in there without your permission. Even if you are an adult and you live with somebody, you don't want weirdos not weirdos, but you don't want your housemates even to go into your room and go through your stuff. You wouldn't want your family to go into your room going through your stuff. The most anybody should do is maybe your parents are doing laundry while you're at school or work or something, and they drop your clothes on your bed, and then when you come in, be like, hey, I washed your clothes, I put them on the bed. That's all. Okay, thanks. You're welcome. What do you want for dinner? Pizza? We had that last week, but okay. I mean, really. Young man, you're never allowed to touch your sister's paintings, Dad scolded. I can paint too, Jed replied. I'm a good painter. Then do your own paintings, Sarah snapped. Don't sneak in here and mess up my work. I didn't sneak, Jed insisted. He sneered at Sarah. I was just trying to help. You were not, Sarah screamed, angrily tossing her black hair over her shoulder. You ruined my painting. Your painting reeks, Jed shot back. Enough, Mom shouted. She grabbed Jed by both shoulders. Jed, look at me. You don't seem to see how serious this is. This is the worst thing you've ever done. Jed's smile finally faded. It took another glance at the ugly smile face he had slopped onto Sarah's watercolor. I took another glance at the ugly smile face he had slopped onto Sarah's watercolor. Since he's the baby of the family, Jed thinks he can get away with anything. But I knew that this time he had gone too far. Well, no shit! After all, Sarah is the star of the family. She's the talented one. The one with the painting that hung in a museum. Messing with Sarah's precious painting was bound to get Jed in major trouble. Sarah is also stuck up about her paintings. Well, if they're her pride and joy, she probably would be. Has she really gotten criticism yet at being 14 years old? No, at 14, I was full of shit, and I thought the world of myself. So come off it. I mean, granted, some people never get over that stage of their lives, but hey. A few times I even thought about painting something funny on one of them, but of course I only thought it. I would never do anything that horrible. You don't have to be jealous of your sister's work, Dad was telling Jed. We're all talented in this family. Who said he was jealous? He's a bratty little kid. I doubt he even knows what jealousy means. Oh, sure, Jed muttered. He had this weird habit. Whenever he's in trouble, he doesn't say he's sorry. Instead, he gets really angry. That's what people do. It's a defense mechanism. When you feel upset, you usually get defensive, which turns into anger. Because that's how you deal with shit, even if that's not the emotion you should be using. What's your talent, Dad? Jed demanded, steering. Speaking of, why haven't the parents shared anything? Why is it just the kids? Jed demanded, steering. Dad's jaw tightened. He narrowed his eyes at Jed. We are not discussing me, he said in a low voice. But I'll tell you, my talent is my Chinese cooking. You see, there are all kinds of talents, Jed. Dad considers himself a master at the wok. Once or twice a week, he chops a ton of vegetables into little pieces and fries them up in the electric wok Mom got him for Christmas. We pretend it tastes great. No point in hurting Dad's feelings. Is Jed going to be punished or not? Sarah demanded in a shrill voice. She had opened her box of watercolor paints and was rolling a brush in the black. Then she began painting over the smile face with quick, furious strokes. Yes, Jed is going to be punished, Mom replied, glaring at him. Jed lowered his eyes to the floor. First, he's going to apologize to Sarah. We all waited. It took Jed a while, but he finally managed to mutter, Sorry, Sarah. Because, yes, that is a sincere apology, and totally teaches your kid to sincerely apologize to somebody for something they did that was stupid and wrong. He started to leave the room, but Mom grabbed his shoulders again and pulled him back. Not so fast, Jed, she told him. Your punishment is you can't go to the movies with Josh and Matt on Saturday, and no video games for a week. Mom, give me a break, Jed whined. What you did was really bad, Mom said sternly. Maybe this punishment will make you realize how horrible it was. But I have to go to the movies. Not really, Jed protested. You can't, Mom replied softly. And no arguing, or I'll add to your punishment. Now go to your room. I don't think it's enough punishment, Sarah said, dabbing away at her painting. Keep out of it, Sarah, Mom snapped. Yeah, keep out of it, Jed muttered. He stomped out of the room and down the hall to his room. Dead sighed. He swept a hand back over his bald head. Family sharing night is over, he said sadly. Even though the parents didn't share a damn thing. So, what's the point of having family sharing night when it should be, we force our children to tell us something about themselves, or do something for our own entertainment? I stayed in Sarah's room and watched her repair the painting for a while. She kept tisk-tisking and shaking her head. I have to make the rocks much darker, or the paint will cover the stupid smile face, she explained unhappily. But if I make the rocks darker, I have to change the sky. The whole balance is ruined. I think it looks pretty good, I told her, trying to cheer her up. How could Jed do that? Sarah demanded, dipping her brush in the water jar. How could he sneak in here and totally destroy a work of art? Well, first of all, he's a little kid, and doesn't likely know any better. Also, why not just scrap that painting and start over? Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but that way you don't have to kill yourself to fix it. I was feeling sorry for Sarah. You couldn't just say, I felt sorry for her. You have to say, I was feeling. But that remark made me lose all sympathy. I mean, why couldn't she just call it a watercolor painting? Why did she have to call it a work of art? Well, technically it is a work of art. But that's not the part you should be focusing on, really. I mean, it's really the meaning behind her using that word. Sometimes she is so stuck up and so in love with herself, it makes me sick. I turned and left the room. She didn't even notice. I went down the hall to my room and called my friend Margot. We talked for a while about stuff, nothing that was important, so me telling you about this shit is entirely pointless. And we made plans to get together the next day. Which, you didn't actually need that in there at all. Just next chapter, oh, I got together with my friend and we're doing stuff now. That's a pointless paragraph. As I talked on the phone, I could hear Jed in his room next door. He was pacing back and forth, tossing things around, making a lot of noise. Sometimes I spelled the word Jed, brat. Margot's dad made her get off the phone. He's real strict. Well, it depends on how late you called. I called a new friend of mine, not really concerned about the time, and I don't know, I called her at I think I called her at 9 or something like that, and she's like, Kassie, why are you calling me so late? And I'm like, is it really that late? And she's like, it's 9 something. And I'm like, yeah, it's 9. It's not that late. I mean, I'm like, it's not that late. It's not like I called you at 10 or 11. Even 10 o'clock might be kind of late, but I would still consider that an appropriate time. 11 or later, I wouldn't. She's like, my mother has me and my brother get to bed at 9, and that's when we have to go to bed, or at least be in our rooms. And she's like, in the future, don't call at 9 because I'm supposed to be in my room asleep. I'm like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. And that's all you have to do. He never lets her talk for more than 10 or 15 minutes. Does he have a cell phone? Is he has to pay by the minute? I mean, what the hell? And yes, they did have cell phones back then. So don't try to tell me they didn't, because I know they did. They just weren't as cheap or prominent as they are now. I wandered into the kitchen and made myself a bowl of Frosted Flakes, because I needed a name brand. My favorite late snack. When I was a little kid, I used to have a bowl of cereal every night before bed, and I just never got out of the habit. I rinsed up the bowl, then I said good night to Mom and Dad and went to bed. It was a warm spring night. A soft breeze fluttered the curtains over the window. Pale light from a big half moon filled the window and spilled onto the floor. I fell into a deep sleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. A short while later, something woke me up. I'm not sure what. Still half asleep, I blinked my eyes open and raised my head on my pillow. I struggled to see clearly. The curtains flapped over the window. I felt as if I were still asleep, dreaming. But what I saw in the window snapped me awake. The curtains billowed, then lifted away, and in the silvery light I saw a face, an ugly, grinning face in my bedroom window, staring through the darkness at me. So you just have your window open so that anybody can come through. Okay. Chapter 3. The curtains flapped again. The face didn't move. Who? I choked out, squeezing the sheet up to my chin. The eyes stared in at me. Cold, unblinking eyes. Dummy eyes. Dennis. Dennis stared blankly at me, his white eye catching the glow of the moonlight. I let out an angry roar, tossing off the sheet, and bolted out of bed, to the window. Why is there a period there? Why not a comma? Or better yet, I let out an angry roar, tossed off the sheet, period, and bolted... Let's see. I let out an angry roar, and tossed off the sheet, period. Bolting, well, granted this you needed to stay in past tense. I bolted out of bed to the window. There, 2 sentences. I pushed away the billowing curtains and grabbed Dennis' head off the window ledge. Who put you here? I demanded, holding the head between my hands. Who did it, Dennis? I heard soft laughter from behind me, from the hallway. I flew across the room, the head still in my hands. I pulled open my bedroom door. So, what did you do with the head? Did you just leave the dummy downstairs? You didn't say you took it with you when you went to your sister's room. You never said you put it down, either, now that I think about it. Huh. Great pacing of events and telling us everything we need to know. Jed held his hand over his mouth, muffling his laughter. Gotcha, he whispered gleefully. Jed, you creep, I cried. I let the dummy head drop to the floor. Then I grabbed Jed's pajama pants with both hands and jerked them up as high as I could, nearly to his chin. Yeah, because you left your window open, like a dumbass, so that, in theory, if somebody decided to creep on you, like steal you away in the night or rape you or something, they could. I would like to think your parents taught you better than that. Unless you have safety things on your windows like my windows have, which only let them open like about the size of a ruler wide. And also, you really need to explain to your brother not to do that shit, because if you think somebody's outside, you're going to freak out and call the cops. I mean, there's just all kinds of things wrong with that. It's like when my brother came over one night, and I didn't hear him knock because I was recording or listening to music or something. So he came around the house and stood in front of my windows and peered in to see if I was home, and knocked on my windows. You know, it made him look like a creeper, 'cause he's doing this at like 2, 3 in the morning, and we're night owls, but still. And I told him so, and he still did it. He still came around and did it, and I'm like, stop doing that. Somebody's gonna call the cops on you, because you're being a fucking idiot. That same thing here, even though it's just the dummy's head. She didn't know that. She was asleep. And what if you do that because you think it's funny, and then one day there suddenly is some weirdo outside her window, and she's like, oh, my brother came in being a dumbass, well, fuck it, I'll just go back to sleep. And then next thing she knows, she's being kidnapped in the middle of the night because you're a fucking idiot! And so is she for leaving the window open. Though people could still open windows and get to you, but it's just safer to have them shut unless it's daylight and you're at home. I mean, come on. He let out a gasp of pain and stumbled back against the wall. Why did you do that? I demanded in an angry whisper. Why did you put the dummy head on the window ledge? On my window ledge. Jen tucked his pajama pants back into place. To pay you back, he muttered. Huh, me? I shrieked. I didn't do anything to you. What did I do? You didn't stick up for me. Well, why would she? And why should she? You're the one who was an asshole. He grumbled, scratching his red curly hair. He narrowed his eyes at me. You didn't say anything to help me out, you know, about Sarah's painting. Excuse me? I cried. How could I help you out? What could I say? You could have said it was no big deal, Jed replied. But it was a big deal, I told him. You know how seriously Sarah takes her paintings. I shook my head. I'm sorry, Jed, but you deserve to be punished. You really do. He stared at me across the dim hallway, thinking about what I said. Then an evil smile spread slowly over his freckled face. I hope I didn't scare you too much, Amy, he snickered. Then he picked Dennis's head off the carpet and tossed it at me. I caught it in one hand. Go to sleep, Jed, I told him, and don't mess with Dennis again. I stepped back into my room and closed the door. I tossed Dennis's head onto the pile of clothes on my desk chair. Then I climbed wearily back into my bed. So much trouble around here tonight, I thought, shutting my eyes, trying to relax. So much trouble. 2 days later, Dad brought home a present for me. A new ventriloquist dummy. That's when the real trouble began. Why are we focusing on all this pointless shit in the first 3 chapters? Sure, we're establishing the brother's a butt, but we could have took care of this in 1, 2 chapters or something. And again, why didn't the parents share anything if this is supposed to be family sharing night? That would have been a much better way. Like, after they took care of this whole business with the watercolor shit, and the parents were like, well, fuck, it's kind of ruined now. Mom or Dad could have been the one to been like, well, okay, so, just to go ahead and finish sharing night up, here you go, we got you a new ventriloquist doll. I mean, that would have been the perfect opportunity for that to happen. You know, I mean, yeah, the sister's away worried about her own shit because the brother was stupid, but here you go, you got your dummy. Why did we need this as a little add-on? That should have been the most important thing. But instead we got 3 chapters of bullcrap that didn't really amount to anything except my sister's a stuck-up snob artist, and my little brother's a dick. Yeah, I could keep reading this, but I don't know why we wasted 3 chapters on stuff that wasn't as important as everybody tried to make it out to be, and then you get a little blurb of the stuff that is important to the story. I mean, I can already tell you that the dummy probably comes to life and does shit, and probably fucks with the sister's paintings, which get you in trouble, or your little brother in trouble, and probably get you in trouble during family night. If you pass on this book, you're not missing anything, because the first 3 chapters are pointless. And I'm going to assume because the first 3 chapters are pointless, the rest of the book is pointless. The end. I'm Caleb, and this has been Red Knot. Thank you for listening. Bye!